Tonight on CFTK-TV News, we'll hear from the new Coast Mountain School District Superintendent. More people than ever are relying on food banks, and a report looks at if the federal government's immigration cut will work.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Maslin. Here's what's making news in the Northwest and beyond today. The NDP have won a majority of seats after a final count of the votes in the provincial election, but Elections BC says two of the seats, Kelowna Centre and Surrey Guildford, are so close that there will be automatic judicial recounts held. It says in Kelowna Centre the difference between the Conservatives and NDP is 38 votes, and the threshold for a recount is 49. And in Surrey Guildford, the threshold for a recount is 38 votes again, and the difference between the top two candidates is 27. NDP leader David Eby stated that he has already met with Lieutenant Governor Janet Austin to form the next government, and he will work hard every day to earn the trust that BC residents have placed in his party. It's been 5 years since a then 69-year-old Houston woman went on a daily walk, but sadly she hasn't been seen since she embarked on that stroll. Laureen Fabian was the name of the Houston resident in question, and despite efforts of the Houston Search and Rescue Team, they were unable to find her despite getting help from an RCMP helicopter and other search and rescue volunteers from different communities. Fabian's physical description is that of a 143-pound Caucasian woman who is about 5'4" tall and has both brown eyes and brown hair. Those that have any information on where she went or is currently located are asked to call the Houston RCMP at 250-845-2204. The City of Prince Rupert has been hosting public feedback sessions on its drafted budget for 2025 and the associated tax rate. The plan proposes a 6.4% property tax increase. The city said that they proposed this in order to maintain services at existing levels, and it represents an increase of $129 to the average homeowner for 2025. In addition to the increase to the property tax rate, Council will also consider new utility fee bylaws, with final adjustments being proposed to service the city's debt portion of funding that's being directed to critical water and sewer renewal. In total, if adopted, those fee changes will lead to a $145 increase to overall utility rates after the 10% early pay discount is applied. The next opportunity to provide input will be November 12th at 7 p.m. at Prince Rupert City Hall. Just a few weeks into her new role, Tracy McMillan is now serving as superintendent for the Coast Mountain School Districts. CFTK's Damian Smith has more from her.
The Coast Mountain School District now has a new superintendent who will be replacing Janet Meyer, and that is Tracy McMillan, who is making the move over from the Stakina School District. One intriguing question heading into the school year was phone usage among students and how they would respond to the changes. And after McMillan conversed with the board last week, so far, so good.
They are seeing an increase in student focus and engagement throughout the school. They say there seems to be more student collaboration in class, and most importantly, students seem to be more verbal and socially engaged during the day. Overall, they say the students are responding positively to this initiative, and they also anticipate that this will be reflected well in course completeness.
Now in May of 2024, Janet Meyer was appointed as the interim superintendent for the time being. Though McMillan has 4 years of experience in this role previously, she cites that Meyer's background and knowledge has been a valuable resource in her first 3 weeks on the job.
I have an excellent relationship with Janet. Her background and knowledge has been a valued resource as we move through this transition period, and we both believe that it is essential to put in place the best resources that will enhance the environment for all of our learners. And I really appreciate Janet and the giving of her time.
McMillan also believes that the school district is in a good place, and going forward, they will continue the same practices.
The school district is functioning well, and principals, vice principals, teachers, and support staff, they already do much to present a welcoming and inclusive environment. So I think my intent is to definitely build on these strengths and to promote the positives so that the community becomes more fully aware of the many successes that are in our school.
From CFTK, I'm Damian Smith.
Coming up next is a look at how BC's cruise season in Vancouver went. Welcome back. From housing to groceries, inflation has affected many Canadians, and now more people than ever are turning to food banks. As CTV's Abigail Turner reports, demand has doubled over a 5-year span.
It's a grim milestone. Nearly double the amount of Canadians have used a food bank in the past 5 years.
The numbers are staggering. We are seeing massive increase in demand, the amount of food we give out.
That info coming from a 108-page report from Food Banks Canada. It says more than 2 million Canadians used a food bank in March of this year, 1 million more than March of 2019. 1/3 of those people are children, while many others have a job.
People who are employed who might not be able to keep up with the rising cost of living just because their purchasing power of that income has been decreasing so substantially.
The growing demand is seen daily at the Greater Vancouver Food Bank. 6 years ago, they had 6,500 clients. Now, 15,000 people are registered.
We actually are seeing a lot more people that are full-time employed, especially in Vancouver. They have a job, they just can't make ends meet. By the time they pay for their rent or their lodging, they pay for their vehicle.
The report is calling for a grocery and essential tax benefit, modernizing EI and ensuring all federal benefits are linked to inflation. With more Canadians turning to help, 30% of food banks are reportedly running out of food. But things look more positive in Vancouver.
The public are incredibly generous and our donors are amazing. We're able to keep up with demand, so we are very, very fortunate.
A positive in an unprecedented demand at food banks. Abigail Turner, CTV News, Vancouver.
And now we have a report that looks further into if the federal government's plan to cut immigration targets will work out, with some insight from an expert.
In the face of housing and affordability crisis, Ottawa is reining in the number of newcomers it allows in. The feds have announced a cut to immigration targets for the next 3 years, but will the plan work? Tom Davidoff, housing expert and associate professor at UBC Sauder School of Business, joins us this morning. Good morning. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So BC's immigration levels are a lot higher than most provinces, with the exception of Ontario. How could these new targets impact affordability here in BC?
Honestly, I think it will improve affordability to have fewer people here. The basic problem we have is too many people looking for too few homes. And so when you reduce the number of people, that softens the market. We do have a bit of rental supply coming online now. So I think probably, rents, I don't know that rents are going to come down, but they'll grow less quickly than they would have otherwise.
So the big markets like Vancouver, Surrey, how will these changes impact those housing markets?
Yeah, I think they're all linked. It's a little hard to predict. I think Surrey obviously is an important location for immigrants, Vancouver as well. But I think every community will be affected. If house prices get cheap in Surrey, some people are willing to substitute, and that affects every community.
So BC has relatively low unemployment rates compared to the national average. How will reduced immigration impact this province's labor market?
Yeah, this probably, again, leads to somewhat higher wages than there would have been otherwise. These are skilled people coming who are going to see some cuts too, as well as the other cuts we've seen to the low-wage track and to the student track. So I think probably stronger wage growth and even harder for firms to find employees, which is already a challenge.
Yeah, we're hearing about that a lot. What about education, Tom? BC attracts a lot of international students and they often become permanent residents. How will it impact that?
Yes, so obviously all our universities, including where I work, have an awful lot of foreign students, and there have already been cuts to the number of foreign students that Canada allows in. The stronger universities, it's okay. Some of the institutions that were more reliant on immigration as a business model are really seeing adverse impacts on their bottom lines.
What do you see as the biggest benefit of these new targets, and what could be the major downfall?
Yeah, it sort of depends who's coming in. There's some risk that you lose some construction talent, which could be sort of the opposite of the intention in terms of housing affordability. Finding labor, as you mentioned, particularly in the construction center, is a challenge. And you just have a less dynamic economy and less growth when there's less immigration. So while GDP per capita, which people have kept an eye on, you might see an increase. Overall growth in the economy a bit weaker because of the reduced immigration.
Well, it remains to be seen how quickly these changes will happen. Tom Davidoff, housing expert and associate professor at UBC's Sauder School of Business. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Have a great day.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
With a redevelopment soon to begin at a Tsawwassen Park, dozens of local residents protested the removal of over 160 trees. They're being removed so that a new aquatic center and baseball field can be built. And as CTV's Ben Milger reports, the city said they'll save as many trees as possible, but the growing community needs the new amenities.
As workers arrive with metal fencing to close off a section of Winskill Park in Tsawwassen, a few dozen protesters gather in a forested area they hope to save from the park's planned redevelopment.
People walk their dogs in here. It's one of the first frisbee golf places. The eagles, the owls. Someone saw a deer in here last week.
The city of Delta wants to cut down 166 trees here to make way for new amenities it says the community's growing population requires. It says it held broad public consultations about the plan, including 6 open houses.
Public input appears to have been ignored. I was at the first public input session, and the people there objected very strongly.
The $120 million park redevelopment includes a brand new aquatic center, the addition of a 4th baseball field, and 350 new parking spaces. The city notes an independent arborist report found only 6 of the trees slated for removal are deemed to be in good health.
And we have a detailed reforestation plan that we're going to be engaging with the public on at the park to ensure that those trees are replaced on at least a 2-for-1 basis going forward.
Despite the city's promises, the protesters remain undeterred, saying they plan to do whatever they can to save the stand of trees.
I think we just need to come together. We need to make a statement. I don't know the lengths that everyone here is willing to go to protect this forest, but I think that it's our duty to.
Construction is scheduled to begin shortly. Barring any changes, the new facilities are expected to be complete and operational sometime in 2027. Ben Milger, CTV News, Delta.
Hopes were high for 2024's cruise ship season, and in the end, records were broken for passengers sailing in and out of Vancouver, resulting in more money being spent at local businesses. CTV's Mark McMahon reports on how the industry bounced back after some turbulent years.
It's time to kiss goodnight to cruise ship season in Vancouver. And what a season it's been, with a record 1.32 million passengers coming through.
When you compare that to 2023, which was previously a record-breaking cruise season, we actually surpassed our passenger levels for 2024 by 80,000 cruise passengers.
That success story has translated into benefits for some businesses. That includes this Gastown gift shop.
It has been an excellent season. I found this year tourism started early with the earlier cruise ships, and they're still going on. Like last week was quite busy with the few ships that are still coming and going.
This bounce back is a pleasant development after the cruise ship industry went through so much during the pandemic.
Tourists are such fun people, and we have a fun store, so we do have fun with them. Like they enjoy coming. We're always told it's their favorite place to go, and a lot of that I think is just because we love being here.
This record-setting season comes to an end Tuesday with the departure of Norwegian Jewel. And as for the port, it expects to see similar numbers again next season. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Vancouver.
Turning to tonight's weather, the north coast is set to see some periods of rain with a low of 9 degrees. The Terrace-Kitimat area will also deal with periods of rain, but with a low of 3 degrees instead. And the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District is supposed to get some wet flurries and rain, while their low drops to -2 degrees. On the north coast, the week for them will see some sun in the middle of the week and between the clouds and rain as the high shifts from 9 to 6 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, the next week or so will be made up of the odd partly sunny day and cloudy/rainy days, as the high bounces between 7 and 3 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the upcoming week will instead be all rain, clouds, and possibly some flurries, with a high moving from 4 to 5 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is roadside brushing, maintenance work, utility work, construction work, ditching, and heavy rain. Highway 118 has some roadside brushing too. Highway 37 also has some roadside brushing and slippery sections, some construction work and bridge maintenance on the Nishka Highway, and the Telegraph Creek Road has slippery sections of its own. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come is new information on a woman that went missing not too long ago. Welcome back. There's been a big development in the search for a missing 82-year-old woman who hasn't been seen since Friday. CTV's St. John Alexander has the details.
And police really are worried about her because her van was found in a spot that really doesn't make much sense. So this is 82-year-old Jane Whitehouse. She was last seen Friday morning when she left home in the Langley-Aldergrove area to run errands. She was driving her gray Dodge Grand Caravan. That vehicle has now been found. It was spotted on a service road in Agassiz. And this is why police are so concerned. She does not know the area, and it's at least an hour-and-a-half drive from where she lives.
Right now we're trying to identify reasons as to why she actually went to that area. So we're looking to all avenues and looking for potential video surveillance from the highway leading to that area.
So now Mounties in Langley and Agassiz are trying to find her, and they're asking anyone who may have seen something to give them a call. St. John Alexander, CTV News, Langley.
We've gotten more reaction following a Vancouver City Councillor swearing during a council meeting. It was a tense moment, prompting another councillor to describe the workplace as toxic. CTV's Isabella Zavarisi has more on the reaction.
This is not the Wild West procedure, and I apologize for that.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to call a point of order because
call a point of order, and I will retract.
Highly inappropriate, and I just like to state
I was in the middle of speaking.
And then the mics cut. The fiery outburst Wednesday from Councillor Sarah Kirby-Young, directed at what seems to be her fellow ABC councillors Mike Clausen and Rebecca Bly.
I don't think I've seen anything quite like that in my time on council.
Kirby-Young appeared to be frustrated about her right to speak to emotion. After dropping the F-bomb, a 10-minute recess was called. Then she apologized.
And I deeply regret that, it's not reflective of the decorum that we should have in our chambers, and I'm sorry for that.
Green Councillor Pete Fry says the incident is a symptom of a larger problem at City Hall.
It's an increasingly toxic workplace at City Hall lately. There's a lot of partisan bickering.
I think it does sow a little bit of a doubt in the minds of voters as to what is going on at City Council and why it is that the ABC councillors can't seem to get on the same page on even a minor procedural issue.
Political scientist Stuart Prest thinks ABC should address what happened to alleviate voter concerns.
They may be left wondering whether there is more to the story that we are not understanding, whether the cracks within the ABC facade are not simply about procedure, but instead speaking to a more deep-seated frustrations with the direction of the city.
We asked Councillor Sarah Kirby-Young for an interview, but did not receive a response. In a text message to CTV News, Councillor Rebecca Bly said it was a difficult situation and that she wouldn't be speaking with the media today. While ABC picks up the pieces, Prest says it doesn't bode well for the ruling party.
Beyond good vibes, it's not exactly clear what the larger plan for the city is, and vibes is not a plan.
Isabella Zavarisi, CTV News, Vancouver.
A Calgary entrepreneur is angry after Google removed his business's profile. He said it happened without warning, resulting in lost bookings and his company's reputation being hurt. CTV's Terry Fikowski explains.
Bryce Gilbert is Mr. Steam, a Calgary cleaning company. He opened the business in 2019 and has earned a 4.9-star reputation on Google. That's why he was shocked when his account was removed from the search engine on October 8th, along with 130 positive customer reviews.
I've been working for 5 years on this, making sure my customers are treated perfectly so I can earn those 5-star reviews. And to wake up and see it's been taken away, it's brutal.
His appeal was denied. An email from Google said it was suspended due to content that violates our policies on deceptive content. But Gilbert doesn't know what that content is and couldn't get answers from an automated system.
I really just think the power that Google has over businesses is too much. They really basically do have a monopoly on the reputation of small businesses.
Gilbert says it's not just his reputation, but revenue that has taken a hit. Mr. Steam hasn't had a new booking since, and with a new baby and wife at home, stress is taking a toll.
It really feels like, a David and Goliath situation. You have this company that makes hundreds of millions of dollars from advertising. They suspend this little guy, and then they won't really explain themselves.
Tech expert Thomas Keenan describes Google's business policies as vague and says it's stories like this that have landed the company at the center of a landmark court case with the U.S. Department of Justice over accusations of being anti-competitive. But it also acts as a reminder about businesses' responsibility to review what they put out online.
It is advertising honestly and working with businesses to understand what that means. Whatever we put out, whatever we say, we need to be able to stand behind that and substantiate that.
Gilbert hopes sharing his story not only clears Mr. Steam's name, but acts as a warning to other small business owners.
It seems like good, hardworking, honest businesses are just being taken down for little nitpicky stuff. It's totally unfair.
Terry Fikowski, CTV News, Calgary.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets. The Canadian dollar is down 0.08 of a cent. The price of gold is up $25.20. Oil is down 17 cents. Natural gas is the same as yesterday. Aluminum is up $8. In Toronto, the TSX is down 3.11 points. The Venture Index is up 2.58. In New York, the Dow Jones is down 154.52, and Nasdaq is up 145.56. Still ahead, a rather strange creature sighting was made in the UK. UK zoo officials are stumped after a strange creature was caught on camera. Over to CNN's Jeremy Roth.
A UK zoo is asking for the public's help in identifying this mysterious creature captured on a trail camera. Folks at England's Bristol Zoo Project posted to social media saying they are stumped by the bizarre creature, reported to be sporting both wings and possibly horns. Some folks' reasoning skipped straight to the surreal, while others suggested a simple double-exposure photo flub. One creative fan even shared their own artistic take on the confounding critter. To be fair, the zoo did post this image of an oddly similar deer for, quote, comparison, and to be even fairer, the whole mystery just so happens to coincide with a Halloween-themed event at the zoo. So, what say you, otherworldly woodland discovery or clever mythical marketing? For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
That's all our news for CFTK-TV News. I'm Cale Maslin. Thanks for watching.